Hey everybody, my name is Jake Reichbart, and today I'm starting a new concept video that I hope will become a long and fruitful series of videos chronicling or telling the story of my life as a solo guitarist, or as I call it in the title above, a cocktail guitarist. Now, what exactly is a cocktail guitarist? We'll talk about that in just a little bit. In these videos, I'd like to share with you my experiences as a solo guitarist, and we're going to talk about all aspects of what I've been doing for such a long time. And first and foremost, we're going to talk about how to play as a solo guitarist. And in fact, today I'm going to share with you a very valuable lesson. In fact, it's my most basic technique. If you can do what I'm going to share with you today in this lesson, you are on your way to becoming a successful solo guitarist. But we're going to talk about everything from equipment to how to get gigs, how to build a repertoire, how to write contracts, just about everything that you can think about, every aspect of becoming a successful solo guitarist. Now, just how vast is my experience as a solo guitarist? Well, over the past 3+ decades, I have averaged, well, minus the pandemic, I suppose, nevertheless, probably not less than 250 gigs per year. And if you're asking how is it possible to play so many gigs? Well, first of all, there was a time when a lot of jobs were available, more so than today. The other answer is I've become quite good at what I do. In my region, which is Southeast Michigan, I'm pretty well known to the people who book music agents, other musicians, band leaders, as the guy who sits between two potted plants wearing a suit and playing that soothing background music. So I get a lot of these calls. But the fact of the matter is that I also caught a lucky break in that around 30 years ago, really, I started playing at a restaurant called the Earl in Ann Arbor. And I came to sit in with a piano player who used to play there. And very shortly thereafter, I inherited the gig. And from there, it just took off from playing just on a Wednesday to playing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday every week. And so I've been playing at this restaurant for 28, 29 years now on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And so basically with your Fridays and Saturdays open, you can book additional gigs, high-paying gigs, all the money jobs, fundraisers, wedding ceremonies, cocktail events at, rich people's homes and so forth. I've taken this experience to YouTube and started posting videos around 2008, I believe, and I have committed to something pretty unique, and that is to post one new arrangement every single week. And I've been doing so since that time. Basically, just this past week, I posted my 565th solo guitar arrangement on YouTube, basically committing to essentially 50 new arrangements every year, one per week. Truth, though, is when I started on YouTube, I didn't know what my direction was going to be. I tried different things. There was a huge resurgence of fusion guitar, so I tried my hand at that. But in fact, solo guitar has really become my first language, and that is the style that I decided to focus on here on YouTube. So before I go any further, these videos take time and effort, and I could use all the support I can get. So in the information below, you'll see some links to, first and foremost, to my full-length guitar video lessons that you can purchase, and that will help me dedicate more time to these kind of videos that you can view for free. There's also a Patreon page where you can support me for as little as $3 a month. So take a look below in the information. Okay, so what is a cocktail guitarist or a solo guitarist? Well, I'm not sure I have an exact definition, but first of all, as the saying goes, a picture tells 1,000 words. Nevertheless, I can kind of describe what it is and add a few parameters. So first of all, parameter-wise, the idea is that you are playing solo guitar, meaning that you're not playing with any other musician. You are using your two hands on the guitar, no backing tracks. It's just you and the guitar. As far as the right hand goes, some people use a pick, some people use a pick and finger technique, like a hybrid technique. But by and large, you're using a fingerstyle technique whereby you're playing the melody, the chords, the bass, all at the same time. In my case, I also add percussion sometimes, which I will discuss, of course. The other relevant elements are the venue where you are playing and your repertoire. In terms of the venue, as you can see, restaurants, cocktail events, wedding ceremonies, essentially background music when people are mingling around or sitting at their table eating, drinking. And repertoire-wise, I've chosen to go with popular music of the past 100 years, music of every decade. In fact, one of the things I'm going to do if this series does develop is go through the decades starting in the 1920s and kind of picking 5 or 10 songs from each decade that you'll want to add to your repertoire. In fact, you may have noticed this album cover here, Louis Armstrong, and in fact that relates to the song that we're going to work on today as part of the lesson that I'm going to offer you. The song Ain't Misbehavin'. You've heard a few notes of my arrangement a little bit earlier in the video. Now, to be clear, nobody is born or starts out as a kid saying, I really want to be a wedding guitarist. I really want to be a cocktail guitarist where nobody's paying attention. But nevertheless, I've learned over the years that people are paying attention, actually. And playing at cocktail events and background music at restaurants can be very enjoyable. In fact, the interesting thing is that I do, as a matter of fact, get to play a handful of concerts every year. And the material that I play is exactly what I play at my restaurant gigs. I play the same tunes, the same arrangements. And the beautiful thing about solo guitar is that, you know, to those who are interested, it can be beautiful concert material. And yet at the same time, you can use this type of music and play it at events. So I want to mention 3 reasons, 3 elements why you'll want to become a solo guitarist. Well, first of all, the financial aspect. In recent years, venues have been cutting back. It's hard to get work as a trio or a group. There's also a question of volume. When you are a solo player, especially guitar, you can sneak into small venues that don't have a lot of budget, don't have a lot of space, and you can play live music, and whatever budget they have, you can keep all to yourself. The second aspect is the intellectual, the mental one, if you will. Putting together a solo guitar arrangement is quite challenging to the mind, and it's incredibly gratifying to be able to put an arrangement together. And not only that, though, the things that we're going to do that I'm going to demonstrate in the lesson in just a few minutes seemingly are so simple. If you gave to a piano player the parts that I'm going to offer in this lesson, and in fact there's a PDF below that you can download to see this, you would not think much of this piano player because you can play it with one finger on the right hand and one finger on the left hand, and that is it. But when we do it on the guitar, just because it's not expected from the guitar, it seems huge. So we are kind of fooling the listener into thinking that we're doing something more than it really is. But nevertheless, the challenge to put together 2 parts that we're going to discuss a little bit later is intellectually and for the mind a great challenge. And lastly, I think there's an emotional aspect to it, a gratifying sense when you play a full arrangement of a song that you love, something that you grew up with, or a jazz standard, or a Beatles tune, or any kind of song that you grew up with and you enjoyed listening to, and all of a sudden you can do it yourself without needing a band, without needing backing tracks, or anything like that. It is incredibly gratifying. So you have all the reasons to become a solo guitarist. All right, let's get down to it. Today I'm going to start this series with a valuable lesson, and it is the most basic technique that I have, and it applies to every song that I have played, play, and will ever play. What you want to do is play the melody of the song that you've chosen to play, and like I said, today we're going to do Ain't Misbehavin', and play it as it needs to be played. And the reason I chose this song is because the melody is rather clear. I mean, you can interpret it in different ways. You can vary the rhythm a little bit, but otherwise the melody is quite clear. So you want to play the melody as it needs to be played, while at the same time playing a very simple yet appropriate bass line to go with it. And again, the song is great because the bass line is very simple. It's going to be quarter notes played very consistently. And just by the virtue of playing these two parts together, you are creating the foundation of the arrangement on so many levels. First of all, it sounds great. You can play full arrangements just with two notes, each with its own unique rhythm, and it will sound like the song. In fact, it sounds good also because between the bass and the melody there's a lot of space, and that sometimes we play very dense chords and it's nice to hear that space, so you can use this as an arranging tool. Let's say you want to play the song the first time just with melody and bass, and then you can repeat the entire head second time with full chords. So right there you've created a contrast between the smaller, the thinner way of playing just with melody and the bass, and a thicker, more dense way of playing it. And you have doubled the amount of time that you could play on the gig. Don't forget, one of the things that you do on the gig is you're passing time. So having a vast repertoire is, of course, desirable. But the other thing you want to do is take what you already have and expand on it. So this is one of those techniques. And of course, jazz improvisation, we're going to talk about that plenty later on as well. Harmonically, we know that your basic harmony is 3 notes, but when you are playing 2 notes, that's 2/3 of the harmony right there. And when you play a progression, the third note oftentimes is implied. So you don't really need to play a full chord all the time, because just playing the progression, just playing the melody, just playing the bass will imply what the harmony is. So let's get right down to it. Ain't Misbehaving. Here are the first few melody notes. And let's stop right there. At the same time as you play these notes, and again, there's a free PDF below that you can download, you'll want to do this. So if I sung it to you, da 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 da, so that might be a good exercise to do right there. Just play that bass note, or that bass line, and sing that melody along. Putting it together, here's what we're going to get. Now, first of all, even before that, so I played the melody like this. Now, as you well know, there are about 1 million ways to play the very same melody note, because many notes on the guitar appear in multiple places. So this C is here, it's also here, it's also here, and here. So, and the D likewise is in all these places. So you can play it here, and then you can blend the strings. So how do you choose where you're going to end up playing the melody? Well, that will depend on the other parts that you end up playing. So here's a C bass note. There's a C bass note here. And for each of this, you can do this. And it will be good for you to start mapping out all the different possibilities. But let's focus on the rhythms. So first thing we noticed, like I said, that the C note comes in on the beat. The other important part is that that second G note was syncopated. It landed between 2 strong bass notes. This is consistent on the quarter notes. Da, 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 da. Same thing here. So just in that little demonstration right there, you could hear the song right away. It sounds interesting. It's only 2 notes, but nevertheless, just playing those 2 notes kind of suggested the harmony, and you could immediately figure out what the song was. So maybe one thing that we can do is not only adapt this idea of playing the melody and bass each with its own unique rhythm as a learning tool, but as an arranging tool. Let's try to play the song The first A section was just the two melody notes, with the two notes, the melody and the bass, and then the second A section, add more chords. All right, there's a link below to a PDF of the tab of getting through the entire head just with playing melody and bass. Check that out, download that. I'd like to thank you for watching this first video in the series. I hope it takes off. If you enjoy it, once again, I can use all the support, and we'll see if we come back with a second one. I'm going to set myself a little goal here. I think it's a pretty modest one. Within the first week, I'm hoping to see 1,000 views of this video and 100 likes. Doesn't seem like a lot. If we can reach this goal within a week, I'll be back with a second video. So hope to see you next time.